The Sciforror Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sciforror Film Podcast. I am Andy Walker and he is my son Scott.
Hello.
Hello. How are you? Very good. Okay.
Stupidly, over the last month, I've had a trapped nerve. I'm not say stupidly, like I've done it purposely.
Trapped nerve for you?
In my back.
On your back?
So, just I've been suffering the last last month or so, and I've got to wait until 2 weeks' time to be able to go to the doctor to be able to do anything. So it's now just getting to the point now where I've had enough.
Get Amy to walk up and down your back a few times. That'll get rid of it.
I've tried that, but she won't do it.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, how are you, Father?
I am marginally better than I was, not quite as good as I could be, and nowhere near as good as I'd like to be. But on the whole, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Basically. So, anyway, on with the show. This week we have 2 short films and a longer one. So we'll do the short ones first, shall we?
Yes.
For a change, let's do it exactly the same way we always do.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to start off with Slaypril Fools 88.
Yeah.
Which is My True Entertainment, written and directed by M.J. Dixon. And the synopsis for this says, welcome to the set of Slaypril Fools Day 2, Revenge of the Prankster. As the film spills into the real world and the blood spills plentifully, it will all make sense in the end, though. Right? Cut. Yeah. And this is a film that was kind of advertised in Slasher House 3.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's the usual mix of slasher horror and comedy, which they do so well. I mean, it's it's well made. It is a bit mad because
it's definitely. If you haven't seen the other films, it does seem chaotic, but because we've seen some of the other stuff, it's organised chaos.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few points where I was watching it thinking, I'm not quite sure what's happening here now.
Yeah, I've got to admit though, most of the acting is on point. I love it, but there's the overacting of the purposely overacting from certain people, which because we know them. I met her and sort of sitting there and sitting there, like, I was wondering at some one point whether or not he was acting. And I was sitting there like, but no, I love it. I loved all of it. I loved the comedy to it and the effects to it, and the little digs as well at certain other films or certain other things. Like with the person saying like, "Why am I here?" Like all they do is they kill me off every other page. And it's just like, why? And it's just, I love the bits because there's certain films where that happens so many times, and I loved everything about this. I always have.
The great thing with there's the actors from the film, and there's one black guy.
Oh yeah.
The extra turns around and says, "Well, don't you know? Don't be silly." He said, "You know, the black guy's always the first one to die."
Yeah.
He's laughing. He goes, "What?"
Yeah, I love that. It's just the whole thing about it as well is it's the trying to figure out whether or not it's the film that's been, if it's real life or it's part of the film or if it's what's going on. And I love the fact that literally until the end you kept guessing with what's going on.
Yeah, it's like a film within a film within a film, really.
Yeah, and I love it. And the fact that they've incorporated it and tied it into other films that they've done, and they've kept it going and kept that whole
Yeah,
connection to it. I think it's
I
just really
I
well done.
really like this. It's a little bit confusing in places, but it's really good. It's really
Yeah,
it's they're really good at this kind of slightly bizarre humor, sort of horror stuff. I really like it.
yeah,
Um, I'm I'm kind of fussy when it comes to horror comedy because I find some stuff isn't, either isn't horror or it isn't comedy, or sometimes isn't either. And I don't, but I really like their stuff. I kind of enjoy
because
them.
I agree with you. So I don't normally do the horror comedy stuff because of the fact is, either goes one way or the other, and there's not enough of it, and it doesn't blend very well. But they always seem to be able to blend it, and it seems to be perfect to man. But it's the sarcastic bits of humour as well
Yeah,
involved in it, which I loved, and I'm saying it's the effects in it as well. The different cinematography as well that they used in it, the shots I think were very well done, and I
their
love the fact of watching. I love watching their stuff.
their effects are always really well done as well, which is what I
Yeah,
like. They pay a lot of detail to, pay a lot of attention to the detail and the effects and things,
yeah,
which is really good. Okay. The second short film is called Autotheist,
yeah.
which this is a Canadian film. Filmed It's the Film and Video Art Society of Alberta and OCD Productions. And the writer and director is Ryder Hartman. Now, it's a fairly long synopsis for this, but here we go. The synopsis says, psychologist, no, try again. Psychologist Dr. Lisa Henriksen reviews the only remaining audio tape in the aftermath of her colleague's breakdown. Can't read my own writing. Psychologist Dr. Linden became obsessed with patient 31 after an incident with another patient where she seemed to have healed life-threatening injuries.
Mm,
After patient 31 attacks and kills a nurse, Dr. Linden becomes obsessed with finding out why, though he may not like the answer he gets.
mm.
Hmm. Yes. What do you think?
I was saying I had a bit of trouble watching this, but I think it might have been my internet. Mate, it was not buffering it all properly, so it was a bit jolted for me. But I really like this idea. I really liked it. I'm. It's really weird. I'm a bit. I've gone through a bit of a craze at the moment of doing the whole psychological thriller horrors sort of things, and it seems to be what my go-to sort of genres at the moment. Um, which I don't know if I should be worried or impressed by, but I liked this because of the fact that it wasn't the. I watched a lot of films where you watch the one doctor doing the whole or following the subjects and what's going on, but watching it as basically a professional reviewing a professional that's reviewed it and seeing the descent of what's going on, I think it's really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I think I really like this film. It's quite an intense film. It's quite, but I think the thing about it is what makes it good is that the intensity, the atmosphere of it, and the intensity is really well done. The acting in it is really good.
Yes.
Um, there, there's a lot going on in the film that isn't mentioned, isn't talked about, or isn't shown,
Yeah.
which is quite interesting because it leaves you, you're continually thinking, well, what's happening? Why is that happening? What's
Yeah.
going on?
I like. I liked as well the story. Some of the storytelling that wasn't like showing flashbacks and stuff like that. But it was the voice on the tape, or
Yeah,
then and the fact that you have to, and the fact that it wasn't overlaid. It wasn't like projected at you. You had to pay attention. You had to concentrate because it was a recording of a voice of a cassette recording.
yeah,
And I like the fact that you had to pay attention and had to sort of almost like sort of super focus on it to
yeah.
understand what was going on, or you missed bits. And I really like that sort of type of filming and the way they've done that.
I mean, there aren't that many kind of makeup and effects, but the bits there are
Mm.
really well done. I mean, the kind of the effects on her fingers and on her face when she goes to the doctor when he
Yeah,
cuts his throat, that was incredibly good, really well done. Um, I really like the film, but I want to see more.
yeah.
I want to know what's happening. I want to know more
Well,
about what's going on.
that's the thing. When you sent it to me and I read the synopsis, I was like, oh, "Sweet, this is going to be a feature-length film,
Yeah,
and this is going to be quite an intense film to watch." And then sat there and watched it, and I think it's under 15 minutes, and I was like, and don't be wrong, it's a lot to pack into 15 minutes, but it's not done in a bad way. It's done like it could have been extended out. But I would love to see this as a feature, as something extended and carried on, and see
definitely.
where it could go
Yeah,
with.
and the interesting thing about it is the fact that I was left at the end not being sure whether the doctor, Dr. Henriksen, whether the doctor was more evil than the patient
Yeah,
because there was,
it's one of them moments you sort of at the end of it, you're not 100% sure where how you feel about it.
yeah, it is, but it's incredibly well done. I'm really good. I mean, at the moment it's doing it's doing uh um, festivals and things like that, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, yeah,
But there's not even a real trailer for it up at the moment. There's two
yeah,
clips from it on YouTube.
yeah,
There's not a proper trailer up for it at the moment on YouTube or anything. But yeah, it's definitely. I'm definitely hoping that they get some money or something together to make it into a feature because that would
yeah.
be. I think it would be really good, and I think it's and I say it's well made, and the acting is good enough for it to be made into a feature without losing any of that.
Yeah, I definitely think as well. If it's, I didn't realise this was going around some of the circuits. So if it's going around festival, I would not be surprised if it won quite a few awards because it's definitely got a lot going for it. It's got
Yeah,
the, it's just saying, it's got so much going for it, and but it's one of them films that saying I was I wasn't disappointed with the length of it. But it's one of the films, one of the rare ones we've watched. I sat there and like, I want to know more. I want
yeah,
to know more. I want to see this made longer and see what they can do. And I seriously hope that they get where they wanted to be able to make it into a feature to be able to carry on.
definitely. Yeah, I think it'd be great as a feature. Okay, talking of features, on to our feature film for this week. And our feature film for this week is again, it's a new film that's out on the festival circuit, as far as I'm aware. It's called Day 66. This is from Beacon Productions and Tribury Tribury Media.
Yeah, I was a bit confused about how to pronounce that myself.
Yeah. Uh, and the director is Russ Tribe, who's also the star of the film. Um, so the synopsis for this says the human race as we know it is nearly extinct. Mourning the loss of his wife and child, Jack contemplates his next move. He's become adept at surviving, but is survival what he wants? Day 66 follows Jack's journey as he battles the dead and his inner demons.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the first part of this film is actually kind of like a scene setting piece to show you what's happening and where we're going with this. Um, and the thing with that, I think it suffers from two areas that a lot of low budget films suffer from. One is the fact that I think the actors are good, but I think some of it's a bit wooden because they're probably not that experienced. But the other main area is the sound. The sound, when they're actually speaking, the sound is really quiet and it's really
Mm.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think as well, for me, I think I agree with what you're saying, but I also think that some of the scenes, not just at the beginning, but sort of some of the ones through it, were a bit dragged out. Like
yeah, I
it's
get what you're
not
saying.
in a like it's sort of in a bad way. Like but there are a few scenes that I've gone, okay, yeah, I would have sat there and gone, okay, yeah, that explains that, but we could also explain that in about half the time and still have the same effect. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's just when there's not a lot going on the screen, you sort of start losing people's focuses, and
Yeah,
it's sort of I think that's one of the things. It's sort of there was a bit more either going on in the background or maybe a bit of a storytelling sort of situation, and not just silence or something like that. Then it would have been a bit better for me.
yeah,
But as I said, don't be wrong. I get the fact that there are certain bits of it I thought were really good. Some of the effects on it were quite
yeah, yeah, definitely.
well done. I liked as well the camera angles of the shooting that was done of obviously not being able to show certain injuries that the people have had, like the little boy had, or even he had, like he had to a certain extent, showing certain ones of them. So they've had to sort of hit it slyly with the camera angles and the sort of and like him when he takes off his right at the beginning when you see his stab wound, he's getting chained. He turns his back to the camera to take his top off.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought was very well done, and then like sort of showing it that way. I thought the sort of cinematography that way was amazing.
yeah. I know, yeah. I mean, there is some really good sort of effects and makeup and that sort of thing, and some really good camera work in it. There were a few things to me. It's like the guy obviously had no idea how to put the tent up because it's possibly
No,
the worst directed tent I've ever seen in my life.
yeah,
Um,
I've got. I was sitting there at one point, sitting there watching it. I was like, well, you obviously weren't a scout,
yeah,
but
it's going to blow away the first bit of wind. But I was it was for me. One thing I did notice about it, and I don't know about you, but as somebody who has been a big fan of the film or the series, I think it was obviously influenced by The Walking Dead. The
yeah, there
whole bits
were.
of the zombie type creatures coming through the forest and that sort of thing were very
Yeah,
reminiscent of The Walking Dead.
yeah, there were a few moments where I, not scene for scene, I suppose, or sort of shot for shot, but it was very moments where that was a bit influenced.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially, I suppose, not especially, but for me, the ending was a bit sort of when
Yeah,
they're
maybe.
surrounded and I'm like, not just The Walking Dead, but there's a few other zombie films that I've seen.
Yeah,
I'm like, you've
but I
got a
mean,
bit of influence. I know it's a bit hard
the
to
bit the bit
sort of,
where he's in the first bit where he's in the forest with the tent and the zombies come in there, it's kind of
yeah,
like that was really for me was really Walking Dead and that. There's a few
yeah.
interesting things that I wasn't quite sure of the point of burying the dead bodies from the house. And the zombie that he killed later, that he tried to kind of befriend somehow.
So maybe it's a
Was
sign of respect or the fact that he's not losing his
yeah.
humanity. I don't know, but it's not very explained a bit, especially as he
And,
sort of goes a bit Rambo a bit afterwards.
and then when he's looking around and he finds this gun and it looks like a toy gun. It just looks like a
Yeah,
it looks
I
like
just
a cap gun or something.
I said there's certain bits that I did. I don't know if he was meant to be done or through the face of my twisted sense of humour, but I did chuckle at. But he,
There was some humorous bits in it, and I don't know. I think that they work because of the fact that you would inject some humor in it because you go mad otherwise.
yeah, if you didn't sit there in a situation and like I'll not be funny, I've done it not obviously zombie apocalypse thing, but something you've had that bad experience and you've got like something really tragic's happened and you're like,
Hmm.
if you don't crack a joke, you're gonna snap.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's the fact that they've put that in there, and I like that the fact that they've got a little bit of a the
I've
sort
got
of the comedy factor. Then I don't know whether there is as much as I found funny, but that's just because I've got a bit of a twisted sense of humour. But
I've got to admit there was one bit that I thought I'm getting too picky at watching things in films now. He was hanging washing outside on the washing line. There were five socks, and I go, "Why are there only five socks?"
that shows we've done way too much of these. If you're picking fault in the clothing select, but like, well, that's not real. There should be six.
Yeah,
Well, I suppose that is more true to life because if you did like, watch it, there normally is one missing.
yeah, one, yeah, a spare sock that you can never find it. But yeah, there were four white ones and one black one, and I thought, why are there only five socks? Um, the zombie extras were good. I thought they worked well. That they acted well, and they kind of
Mm.
they did the job well. And there were quite a few of them. I mean, that's an impressive amount of extras to get into a film for something like that.
And, I suppose obviously we're not knowing how many times they've reshoot or anything, but to have that many in it to be able to all to be different and not sort of sitting and go, hang on a minute, they were in it earlier,
Yeah,
but to
yeah,
sort of have the sort of shots and the angles and the cinematography sort of presence they had without it being too much of like a stress for them, like sort of because I've seen a couple of times on like even with The Walking Dead and stuff like that, where there's so many people there that you can sort of see someone in the background going, I don't know what to do.
yeah, yeah.
Where with this, it's sort of everyone knew their part. They knew they had to walk. They knew they had to go this way. And
I did like the fact that a bit more realistically, maybe than in a lot of other things. And I don't know if it was intended, but he's got this baseball bat he's put nails in, and
yeah,
he hits the first one of them with the baseball bat, and it breaks.
yeah.
And that's kind of like, yeah, that's typical.
And this one of this is what I did like about it. There were a few sort of things that you sort of look at and go, well, yeah, that would be. You wouldn't sit there and like you wouldn't sit there and have this and everything be perfect.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like you wouldn't zombie apocalypse. You wouldn't walk into a house and like, oh, it's laying there with guns. No,
I
it's
did
not.
quite like the effect that he sets one of them on fire, and
Yes,
then poor Wimbledon fan, he runs over his head and explodes his head. That was pretty good. They were
yeah.
pretty good, pretty well done. Um,
I've got to admit, though, out of all of it, I think the location as well helped so much.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the open fields and the sort of even the house at the beginning was worked so well and worked well to help it with the shooting. I think it just made it seem that bit better for me.
yeah. And I kind of like the ending. I mean, it was a bit um formulaic, maybe. It was a bit kind
Yeah,
of like, but it worked well and it seemed to go quite well with what was going on.
yeah,
So it's not a bad ending on the whole. I thought it was a pretty good film. I mean, it's got a hell of a lot going for it, and I mean, fair play to him. It must have taken a fair bit of work to make it.
yeah. And no, I've watched quite a few zombie films, and it is probably one of the better ones I've seen. And I've watched
it
quite a few of them. We've watched,
it's definitely one of the better sort of low budget
yeah,
zombie films I've seen. Definitely.
yeah,
Um, it kind of. I mean, I'm saying about it sort of being influenced by The Walking Dead, but there are obvious sort of sections of it that kind of hark back to things like the Night of the Living Dead and that sort of thing. If you're
yeah.
looking at low budget zombie movies, you got to kind of look at that because that's where it all started from. But yeah, I thought it was pretty well done. I think having him on his own most of the time worked really quite well.
Yeah.
It's sometimes a bit difficult if you've only got one person carrying the story, but I think he acted well and the story was well enough written that it worked.
Well, yeah, I agree because it's one of the things that we've seen, like you said, in quite a few other films, and there's different things where there's a group of them. You don't sort of see that dilemma of what you would do if you were by yourself,
Yeah,
and this I think shows it very well with the story and the acting from him about the fact that yeah, it's hard what he's going through and he's having to fight for all the stuff that he's going to, but having no one to sort of go, I need to like bounce that off of, or even the distraction
yeah. I mean,
makes it because you have to constantly think about it. And I think they portrayed that very well.
yeah. I mean, the bit where he kind of tries to befriend the zombie, I think is kind of like it's
Yeah,
almost like he's going a bit mad.
yeah,
Um, and I was also thinking that at one point he might have been slightly delirious because obviously his wound was infected because he had maggots falling out of it. For God's sake, I mean,
yeah.
but yeah, it was a good film. I enjoyed watching it, and
Mm.
I think it was well done, and I hope it does well on festivals and things like that.
I so I'm not taking away from. I'm not saying that the when I said that the bits are a bit too long for me.
Mm,
It's not in a bad way. It's just for me personally, I would have gone, okay, well, let's make that even if it was just a couple of seconds shorter. but it's still, I still think it's going to do very well
Yeah.
in the
No, I
circuits,
agree.
and even just by itself as a film.
Yes, I agree. I agree. So there you go. We got Slaypril Fools 88 from My True Productions. Always good for a laugh and good for a good film. Um, Autotheist, which was a really good film, and we'd like to see it longer, please. People who made that film, go out and make a feature film version. Don't care what you have to do. Rob a bank, something like that. I don't care. And Day 66, which we enjoyed watching and was a good film. And more power to
Like,
the guy who made it.
yeah, I'd like to see
Subscribe
more from
and
what he can do as well.
yeah, definitely.
If he's managed to make this feature length and do it as well as he has with this, and there's a lot make a sort of low budget zombie film, I'd love to see what he could do with more, more time, more money, more
Yeah,
everything. See where he goes, because he's
definitely.
same as everyone, really. But
Yes. Right. Well, thank you very much for your input, as always.
okay,
And we will return with more of the same type of thingish
hopefully.
in another episode. So, until then, good biggly bong. Bye.
Bye.
The Sciforror Film Podcast.